for it. If there's no objections for the recording, we will record now. We will only record the live sessions. So Gerard, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Fora. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Gerard Botha. And I started with the guideline, put the framework together, and then subsequently lots of people have provided inputs. And of course, we are still welcoming all inputs. As you will see, it's a work in progress. So let's just look at the document, the introduction. So firstly, we haven't done a full round of introductions. Fora has welcomed you, and we have looked at the Menti just to see what everybody's expectations are. Then I will discuss the expected outcomes so that everybody knows where we are headed and an overview of the training. So just very important, at least it seems that the people on Menti said that they are already processing the small scale embedded generation. But if anybody is here and who has not done the 5-day training yet, the in-person training, this session might seem overwhelming because we are going to skip a lot of steps that we assume you already know. Okay, sorry, that's old text about there will be another training session later in the year. This is that session. Apologies for that. Or if you can just jump in. I know Mark has excused himself for this week, but from SEA we have Tanaka. Tanaka is online.
Morning, everyone. Tanaka Shumba Mkulu from SEA.
Who else from your team is here, Tanaka?
I think it might just be me, but I do see that we have our colleagues from Salga who are present. So Silas and Tammy, maybe you can put on your camera and greet people.
Morning, everyone. Thank you.
Morning, Silas.
Hi, Tanaka, and hi, everybody. Tammy here. I'm happy to be here. I'm trying to switch on my camera. Thank you.
Here we go. Morning, Tammy.
Hi, Tanaka.
Great, Gerard. I think you've covered the key ones. Silas, it seems like you wanted to say something, but yeah. So in terms of the other role players, we have GIZ that's funding this training program and other supporting functions. We know that we do have Salga's support and participation as well with the DMRE. And we also then have, from the Solar Training Center side, we are working closely with DNV or Gerard Botha to develop the training and also provide technical support. I think that's a general point I want to make, is that if you're on the process of processing above 1 megawatt applications and you do need technical support, that resource is available, so please make use of it. And we already reached out to those who indicated that if you have an application above 1 megawatt that's lying on your table and you need, and it's something that we can consider this week to look at, to use as a case study, please share that with us as soon as possible with all the relevant documentation and information so that we can review it and prepare for it if we want to use it during the week. We can assist with the anonymizing, but for that we do need to get those applications as soon as possible. So a few already responded, so thank you for that. We appreciate, but the more options we have, the greater. And like I said, technical support that will go with that. And then we also have Dixilent by ISA. So Dixilent, they are offering online and in-person training on using simulation software for the integration of embedded generation on the grid. So, and then obviously Sustainable Energy Africa playing the overarching role to provide this and other related municipal services and support. Great. So thank you for being here. And obviously we haven't welcomed you. So thank you to you as attendees. We really hope that you will get value from this training. But again, feedback and contributions would really be encouraged, and we will be thankful for that. Thank you, Gerard.
Thank you, Fora. And I think we still need to mention that all of this is made possible by funding from GIZ. So thank you. Okay, so the expected outcomes for this week's training is to be able to process and approve applications larger than 1 megawatt. So we do have an updated application form, which we look at. We briefly look at how to evaluate the simulation results, but the details are actually in another course that Dix Island is presenting, where they teach you how to do the studies, but also then you know how to evaluate the simulation studies. We discuss how to issue quotations for these larger than 1 megawatt generators. Talk about what kind of design may be required, how to refer the customer to standards. On the contracting side, we do go through a range of the contracts or agreements that need to be in place. Several of them, there are generic agreements already available in the resource pack. One of the key things here that we do discuss is power quality. The power quality apportioning course for this year has already been presented, so there will be one probably next year again. Then what is the distributor or municipality's role in commissioning and sign-off, as well as in the grid code compliance process? Because most of that is actually the customer's responsibility. And of course, we have Q&A sessions every day. So please, as you go through the materials, jot down your questions so that we can discuss them.
Gerard, if I may just maybe add a point to that last point on the Q&A. Just for the purposes of the records or doing the recording of the videos, if the intention is to have everything uploaded and recorded so that you can view it, but it might be that some of the sessions will be live, like this one. So the intention would be that we do the recording of the presentation first, and then we will keep the Q&A at the end. It just makes the editing much easier. So please just, like Gerard said, jot down those questions you have so that you don't forget it. And then when the time comes, you have it, the floor is open for questions or comments. Thank you, Gerard.
Thank you, Fora. Okay, context, and I'm not going to talk too much about load shedding. We've actually had a very good period now for quite a few weeks where there was very little load shedding, and even several days where there was nothing. So people might almost forget, and it's like a heavy heart when you see that ESP notification, something's happened again. But okay, so one of the biggest things was the amendment of the Schedule 2 of the Electricity Regulation Act, which in essence removed the licensing requirement for all generation projects. And at this stage, it's only those projects that go through the government bid windows that still needs to be registered. So based on the President's feedback earlier this year, there is a pipeline in the private sector of projects, over 100 projects, with about 9 gigs of capacity. Recently, there was an estimate published by Eskom, where they reckon between 4 and 5 gigawatts of private PV is already installed in South Africa. Now, many of those would be the small scale, but there are also quite a few that would fall into above 1 megawatt category. Government has also cut some of the red tape especially for environmental authorizations. So some of the timeframes have been reduced down to 57 days, sorry. And also the registration process has been reduced by NERSA. So in essence, grid connection approvals can be provided within about 6 months. There's also a lot of discussion about how Eskom is dealing with the applications. And as we go through the materials, we can have more discussions about that as well. Originally, when Eskom had these connections, it was on a first come, first served basis. So basically, when the customer accepted the budget quotation, they had their space reserved. Now, due to various technical glitches, there have been a few of these large procurement program projects that have been held up, and they are hogging the grid capacity, which is the main reason why Eskom has changed this approach to a first ready, first served. And that is still, there is quite a bit of concerns about that, because those projects that are so-called hogging the network, they actually have already invested a lot of money, and they stand to lose significant amounts if they're now not allowed to continue. But we can discuss that later. So the bottom line is that both from the Eskom side as well as from government side and Eskom side, there's also very big drives to speed up the process to connect more generation. And I think the municipalities also are seeing more of these application requests, and we hope that this will assist people to actually go through that process. So just on terms of what will be covered, we've defined this in the guideline as several steps. And we do try to focus on the differences. So we don't go from the basis up, we just build on there. So it's from applications, evaluations, quotations, contracting, design, construction, commissioning, and then finally sign off. Then there are several things that we do not deal with in this course. There's the smaller than 1 megawatt, the simulations aspect itself, any standard design and construction requirements. We do not go into the details of grid code compliance, although there's at least a very good idea for even the customers on what they should do. And also we don't look at off-grid installations or applications. Just quickly, the document, you will see this in the videos as well, 3 sections, information, then there's the details of the steps and some background on finances and billing. And not to go into a lot of definitions right here, Eskom, it's a vertically integrated utility still. So we have generation that belongs to Eskom and transmission going down to the Eskom distribution. From there, power is typically fed to municipalities and then the end customer. Of course, end customer can also connect to Eskom. So these entities are all called network service providers. And that's the slight change. They're not electricity suppliers anymore. They are network service providers. And in the past, we had the customer with a point of supply. The municipalities, I believe, usually have a point of delivery where Eskom would supply them, but ultimately the end customer gets a point of supply. And how this has to change now is that we talk about a point of connection. because energy can now flow in both directions, not just from the NSP to the customer, but also back up to the NSP. So point of connection is used in the renewables grid code, and I think it will be probably adopted in all the codes. Because then quickly, just an example introduction. So maybe, for what we want you to do is, I'm giving you here and just the outline of an application. And as we go through the videos, think about what would you do with this application. And I'm really giving very little information because it's almost like the customer comes to you and says, well, I want to install PV. What is he going to do? So he's not going to come with a full application form and single line diagrams and things, even though there is a little bit of that here already. He's just going to come and tell you, well, I want to install PV. So in this case, we've got a commercial customer. The NMD is about 8 MVA. They have existing PV of just under 1 megawatt. So they went up to the limit before the latest Schedule 2, and they now want to install about 3 megs additional. So how are you going to take this customer through the entire process? That's just, they've obviously started doing a little bit of their own planning, so they know what their network is going to look like, or what they're planning for. But on the municipality side, all they know is that they're supplied at 11 kV and there's the fault levels. Okay, so that's the introduction. Any questions or comments at this stage?